I've slid the nose all the way off the car, moved it over so that you can see what I'm doing in here. Next step is going to be to remove the cooling fan. There are 4 small Allen bolts that hold it on. Get your ratchet in there, spin the fan, break it loose. Sometimes the fans stick on. This one popped off pretty easy. If it sticks on, just grab it at 2 opposing sides and pull. It'll pop off. Now we're going to take off the water pump pulley. First thing you want to do is look in these holes. Sometimes these get filled up with dirt. If they do, you won't be able to get the socket in all the way, and if you don't get the socket in, you'll strip the bolt. Make sure your socket is seated firmly. Take your hand and pinch the water pump belt like that. That'll hold it in place and allow you to break the bolts loose. Loosen them up one at a time. Break them loose, and then once they're loose, you can remove all 3. Now just pull all 3 of them out. The pulley will come apart in 2 pieces. Take both pieces of the pulley off. We're all set. Be to remove the AC belt. We do that by loosening these 2 bolts on the air conditioning tensioner. I normally replace this tensioner. You can see that this pulley right here has just a little bit of play in it. They're a pain to get out later, and they're easy to do now, so I'll take both these bolts right out, take that tensioner and belt, and throw them out. I won't reuse them. Now we're going to remove the serpentine belt. We do this by putting a 17mm wrench on the tensioner. Pull the tensioner over. That releases the tension on the belt. Take the belt off. Again, this is another belt that I replace whenever I'm doing a timing belt, so we'll get rid of that. Now I'm going to remove the serpentine belt tensioner. You need to do that to be able to get the timing cover off. This is another part that I generally replace. So I'm going to discard this and put a new one on. Now we're going to take the coolant crossover hose up. There's just enough room in this hose to get it up over the valve cover. Should be enough room in this hose also. This one's been replaced, so it's not the original. We move it out of the way. Now we're going to take the timing cover off. There are 2 metal clips on the top of the timing cover that hold it to the valve cover. One there, one right here. Pop those metal clips, wiggle the cover. Move that out of the way. Now we can set the car to top dead center, and I'll show you how to do that. There's a mark on the timing cover, a small triangle right there. Then there's going to be a mark on the crankshaft. We'll bring it up till we see the notch on the harmonic balancer. Now we need to look, once we have those lined up, we need to come up here and look at the camshaft. Right now, our marks are 180 degrees out. This timing mark is down here. It needs to be up here lined up with this. So we're going to spin the bottom of the engine over 360 degrees. That'll move the larger camshaft gear 180 degrees and line our timing marks up here. We're now at top dead center. This mark on the valve cover is lined up with this mark on the camshaft pulley, and then down here our marks are lined up. This mark is not always accurate. I do not trust this to be the total top dead center. I'll show you how to verify top dead center once we have everything apart. Now I'm going to remove the harmonic balancer. There's 4 Allen bolts that hold the balancer on. One of the things I always do is take a pick, scratch around in there. These really tend to fill up with dirt. These are very clean right now, but they tend to fill up with dirt. That makes it more likely that you're going to strip these coming out. So clean them up first. Make sure the socket's all the way in. The engine will move over when you do this. That's okay. That one's already starting to strip. What we're going to do is go over how to take them out when they start to strip like that. Okay, if these start to strip, which is fairly common, the first thing we're going to do is take our Allen socket, tap it in there, give it some taps. That should hopefully loosen it up a little bit. Put the ratchet in, push in on the ratchet while you try and twist. Still didn't get it out. That happens pretty often on these, so I'll have to go to the next step. What I'll do now is try and get the other ones out, see how many of them do come out. Three came out. This one's still stripped and giving us a hard time. First thing I'll do is try a newer socket of the same size. Tap it in, check and make sure that your socket isn't worn. If it's worn off on the ends, it's going to be more likely to strip. Tap it in there, push in as you turn. Same thing, spins right out. What we do is we take a torque socket that doesn't fit in there, just barely. Now we're going to take that torque socket and we're going to tap it in. It's not going to fit in square the first time, and it may take a few attempts at this to get it to break loose. Same thing, push in, try and turn. It popped out. That's okay. We're just going to keep tapping it in there until we get it seated all the way and it breaks loose. This is the easiest way to do them when they strip. There we go. Broke loose. And we'll spin it out. You can reuse this bolt if you have to, if you don't have access to any more. It's not a bad idea to have a few of these laying around when you're doing timing belts so you can replace them later. This bolt's out. I'm going to put it back in just long enough to re-verify top dead center. The reason we check this multiple times is we need to know before we take the car apart if top dead center was correct. If this mark and this mark were lined up, we'll have to check it 3 or 4 times as we go. We need to be very careful about that.